Hi everyone, welcome back. Coronavirus pandemic will cause global famines of biblical proportions, UN warns. So this is the UN saying this, and of course this is being reported by CNN. So it's not something coming from an untrustworthy source. It's very, very important for us to pay attention to this. Now, if you have actually thought about this thing a little bit, you will understand why this is going to lead to that or might lead to that. You have to understand that so many people aren't working right now. The farmers who should be in the farm right now, making sure that they keep planting and making sure that they keep harvesting in order to keep up with the food supply in Nigeria so that we can at least manage with everything, they are not working so much right now. There might be some places where farmers are still able to go back to work, but in most parts, imagine in Lagos, I don't think there's going to be any farmer that's going to be able to do anything there. Not only in Lagos, imagine Ogun State, imagine some other places like that that are locked down right now, and not only by the federal government, by the state government. So that's the situation on ground right now. It's going to get very, very serious. You have to understand that. So I'm going to be explaining some of all these other things as we proceed. But first of all, let us read the article from CNN so we can understand what they're trying to say and where it's coming from. And of course, Nigeria is being mentioned explicitly in this. So we have to understand that I'm not just saying this because I just want to talk about the prediction that might happen, but because Nigeria is being mentioned specifically. So let's get to that. So again, this is from CNN. Now let's read. The world is facing multiple famines of biblical proportions in just a matter of months, the UN has said, warning that the coronavirus pandemic will push an additional 130 million people to the brink of starvation, citing conflict and economic recession, a decline in aid, and a collapse in oil prices as factors likely to lead to vast food shortages, and urge swift action to avert disaster. It continues, there is also a real danger that more people could potentially die from the economic impact of COVID-19 than the virus itself. So you really need to pay attention to this. 10 countries were singled out as particularly at risk after housing the worst food crisis last year: Yemen, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Afghanistan, Venezuela, Ethiopia, South Sudan, Syria, Nigeria, and Haiti. So we really need to pay attention to this. There is a very high risk that we might fall into a period of famine after this. Now I'm going to be explaining some of all these other things as we proceed so you can understand much more. Let's go over to the reasons why this famine thing is very, very possible. Why the famine is very, very possible. Now we have to understand, first of all, farming, that is agriculture, is very, very slow right now. So people practicing agriculture, growing of crops right now is very, very slow. You are probably in a place where you can't go to your farm right now. So that's the situation on ground. And if you are not going to a place where you can grow monitor your seeds and everything like that, and monitor your plants, there is a huge chance that you are going to start having issues with planting, that is planting at the appropriate season, and then harvesting at the appropriate season. Again, I said, if you are in the hardest hit area, it is very, very likely that you're not going to be able to go over to your farm right now because you are asked to shelter in. So that's a very real risk right now. And then there's a bigger risk there. Understand that people aren't going out right now to make sure that they carry out transactions. So transactions have been limited. Economic transactions have been limited right now. And if there is no economic transaction, it means there won't be so much of an incentive for farmers to grow their crops in order to make money. You have to understand that. Demand and supply. I like to say this thing, demand and supply. You are going to keep producing something if you believe that if you should produce it, there is a great chance that you are going to get a reward from it. So if you're a farmer and you don't believe that there is a great chance for you to get a reward from this thing, from your farm, having cultivated everything and maybe harvested everything, you are not going to be so much enthusiastic about going there to plant and then harvest at this period because most people are asked to what? Shelter in. Imagine there's no place is going to be possible. Just think about it. If you were selling a particular amount of goods and services, so a particular amount of farm produce before the lockdown, you have to understand that it must have dropped. What you sell per day must have dropped by now, even in areas where you're still allowed to sell, must have dropped per day. So that is going to really, really affect the enthusiasm you put in your farming. It's going to affect how much you harvest because you are not sure how many people are going to come to the market come to the market to buy your produce. So that's just the situation. So it means people aren't going to be harvesting as much as they used to do or plant as much as they used to do, because you have to understand that people plant with expectation of what is coming in the future. And now that many people are talking about that we may be under this lockdown for months, So it's very serious. Imagine produce like maybe maize and some other things that are short term. They're not going to be so enthusiastic to plant those things right now because there's not going to be a chance that you'll be able to sell them well enough at this period. So that's just the science, that's the situation on ground. Again, we have very serious food, like poor food storage problem in Nigeria. We don't have very good facilities to store food and to preserve our food in Nigeria. So whatever we have on ground on stock right now, you have to understand that we are blowing through it like crazy. We are blowing through our stockpile of food like crazy. So, and you have to understand that over time, those food materials that are in storage will be some of those things that will be used as planting materials for the next season. So if we blow through everything at this period, it means we might not have enough planting materials for the next season. And if we don't have enough planting materials for the next season, it's kind of like an artificial farming. So that's how farming begins in all these kind of situations. There's no enthusiasm for people to do it. So there's no encouragement. There's no incentive for you to go out to the farm and do it, apart from the law that is trying to prevent you from going out as much as possible in order to flatten the curve. So all these things are coming together and are going to affect you, prevent you from being able to effectively farm and produce food for the country. Again, remember, we are not able to import food right now from other places. Everywhere is locked down. It's not like we're just going to import rice from Thailand right now. So you have to understand that we are supposed to depend on ourselves at this situation. So if we're not able to maintain ourselves and make sure that we provide for ourselves, there's going to be a lot of hunger in the future for us. You just have to understand that, again, farming doesn't necessarily have to come from drought. Farming can come from humanitarian issues. So those are the things that can cause famine. You have to understand, from the Biafran War, it was not like there was actual droughts causing the famine in the Biafra part of the country. Then the part that was designated Biafra. It wasn't like maybe there was such an issue. It was because of the blockades and some of the measures taken by the Nigerian government that caused the famine. So you have to understand that. So famine doesn't necessarily mean drought. So that is why it is very, very possible that we might have a famine after this entire thing. So we have to be very, very serious about this thing. Again, Nigeria cannot handle a situation where we have a double whammy of economic crash and at the same time famine. Like, we are in for this thing, really, really. We need to pray to God. Not only that, we need to be very, very serious. We need to speak to our leaders to figure out a way to get out of this mess. What the developed countries are doing, we can't endure the repercussions. We have to understand that we cannot endure the repercussions of those measures carried out by United States and some other places. They have very strong mechanized farming in those places. They know how to do all those things. They can endure it. We can't. Again, the United Nations, not just some weird organization somewhere complaining. The United Nations is saying that Nigeria, is at a very serious risk of famine. So you have to take this thing very, very seriously. Honestly, I guess we have to start having our own farms at our backyards or something. Sooner or later, that's going to be the way for us to go, everybody. So I guess we're all going back to the farm. Again, thank you very much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, share with your friends, and I'll be seeing you guys next time.